So I'm just going to start with a little bit of information. So our local Aboriginal community are referred to as the Kuno, and they described a park or memorial park to me as a meeting place. And everybody knows that the Aboriginal people refer to their meeting places. But in this particular time, they explained it as it's equivalent to our public halls. And for that really resonated with me. So the meeting place or memorial park was no public hall, I can tell you that. So Council had a responsibility to the Kuno and the broader community to challenge and change this. Our commitment to Department of Justice was to create a safer, more accessible and more vibrant park. We aim to encourage participation, ownership and build community spirit. And we had a responsibility, as I said before, to the community and the Kuno to make this happen. So CCTV and spotlights just wasn't going to cut it. We wanted to reclaim and transform this iconic park. So it's home to a historic piece of wartime memorabilia, as you can see here. This is the first bust of a digger ever displayed in Australia, and the only other one is housed in the National War Museum, and hardly anybody knows that in Baw Baw. So it was actually a really important part of this project. The bust has been, or the mould's been destroyed and it can never be replicated. So we of course want to protect it as well. And it's an iconic central location. This is in the heart of Drouin. It has a very highly public used amenity, which is the loo. It's the fourth highest used loo in the municipality. And it's stated as a significant site for our Kuno. They say it's sacred. We had a site, and on the site was a high-level master plan and a number of other council plans and strategies, as everyone's referred to. It's not the first time it was done. And also in the broader Drouin, there was a really strong and building relationships between council and a whole range of groups. So the site had a number of long-standing issues. There was an abundance and density of trees that I'm not sure actually had any sort of plan to the way they were planted. They just seemed to be randomly there and very dense. So they were covering a lot of the sight lines. There was graffiti and vandalism, and this was increasing. The park was pretty well used twice a year for our RSL commemorative occasions, Remembrance Day and Anzac Day. There was minimal seating, so there was no reason to actually stop and linger. And what did we say before? Unloved and no staying power. Well, this was the park. Do you want to stay there? And there was increase, and the connectivity, you could see there's goat tracks across where people would walk. They didn't even want to really walk on the footpaths. Once again, there'd been no design or no planning to this park. And the main way up to it was actually steps. There was no really even ramped access. There was a pathway right over here that connected, that sort of brought people this way, but that pathway came from a road. So there was no pathways even connecting it up. So there was increased crime in the community in general, not in the community, sorry, in the CBD, and the community were very concerned about this and had gathered petitions and sent them to council. Drouin experienced significant growth, and we wanted to responsibly manage that growth as well and ensure that did not impact further on any of the antisocial behaviour and crime that might have been going on. That's actually got some of the new pathway, but just trying to show you just how it looked visually from the outside. It just had no street appeal. That was the access. A cenotaph, tiny little sort of standing area. Someone's tried to sort of cheer up a little bit with some plants. So what our community told us about the park. Well, the Drouin Community Plan, which had been done with community consultation, said that community safety was a priority, in particularly putting lighting. When we asked in general about the park, people said, it gets used twice a year. I'll use the toilets if I'm busting. I cut through it if I've got to catch the train. Pretty dodgy at night. People drink there. Drug-affected people loiter there. Someone even told us that people have sex in the disabled toilet. Pretty horrific sort of stuff, or, I guess in a place that's had no design and had no loving, I guess that's what we come to expect. Our elders, as I said before, said it was their meeting place, but they also said it was sacred. Our local police commander, area commander, said crime was increasing and anything we could do to improve the amenity and involve our Aboriginal residents to build a stronger relationship would be absolutely beneficial. Our business group manager told us that every night the police pulled up on the western side of the park. He's over on that side, the business group president. The police would pull up on this side of the park and shine their lights through the park to see what was going on there and to see if they could ward off any antisocial behaviour or actually prevent some crime by doing that. So it was a real hot spot. Our council parks team said that graffiti and vandalism was rampant. They were being called out all the time, or just in their inspections they would find it and they would go there and fix it. And that was coming at a huge cost to the community through rates and fixing that. Our RSL, they weren't seemed to be concerned. They only used it twice a year. As long as the memorial was clean and undamaged or had been fixed if it was, they were pretty happy just to rock up there. So we clearly had a problem. But we had a real number of positives in place to build on as well. Council had some previous experience and successes in using an urban and safer by design principles in redeveloping and creating safer and highly used public spaces. We'd done up a whole heap of other parks and public spaces and had really good successes and wins, and saw when we activated them what it meant to communities and how it was able to reduce the antisocial behaviour. And we drew on those past experiences to guide our approach for this site. We looked to build on Council's other priority areas as well around Aboriginal health and wellbeing, asset management and risk management, connectivity, safety and recreation. So from a public realm perspective, we were really clear about the outcomes that we could realistically expect at Memorial and be achieved at Memorial Park. And they were some of the things that we absolutely were focused on. But of most importance, the picture here just shows some of the other successes we've had. In another park only about half a kilometre from Memorial Park, a whole heap of work was done around activating that space and making it culturally relevant and getting Aboriginal people and the broader community involved, what was called the Path of Achievement. And that was to recognise local people that had contributed to sport, recreation and other aspects of their community. And a whole heap of art was put into that park. And then the pathway was developed where we knew people were walking, and then our local Kuno painted it and put messages and important information for them on there. And that significantly impacted and reduced the antisocial behaviour going on in that park. So of most importance to our work, and the real strong point was always going to be central to our role, was around building the relationships. So the opportunity, well, it presented in the form of the Community Crime Prevention Grants through the Department of Justice. And this is where our situation, the issue, the opportunity and the community development approach intersected. We had a project, we then had the money, we had some proven successes to build on, and we had the mandate and support for change from our community. So developing community spirit was critical for us to achieve a safe, healthy and socially vibrant community. And if we truly wanted to reclaim and transform Memorial Park, it was going to be all about the community. So Memorial Park provided an opportunity to connect and engage with the broader Drouin by involving the people in planning, in design, in the implementation and of course the celebration. So time is dedicated to designing and planning our engagement process or approach from the start. In that design, we looked at all of the key stakeholders that we needed to bring together. And those stakeholders came together as a working party and met regularly. And we were really confident that it was a diverse and representative mix. So it was our business group, the elders, the local police. As we talked about before, essential, not just one aspect of council needed to be involved, but a whole range. So we had our parks team, we had our community development team, had our rec team, we had our arts team, we had our engineering team. So we had a whole cross-representation internally from council. We had artists, we had church groups, we had the RSL and Rotary, and we had some passionate locals that also put up their hands. So it was quite a big group, but it was a really vibrant group and we felt really confident with them. So this group was basically handed decision-making power. I said we had a high-level master plan, but we had not designed the space, so it gave plenty of opportunity for people to have their say and get their fingerprints on the design. We trusted them to work alongside with council and to direct how we make the park safe, more vibrant, more usable and more culturally appropriate. There was something in it for everyone. The Aboriginal community were very focused on the art and what that would mean for creating that sacred and meeting place. The RSL were focused on the memorial and the area where people would congregate and gather. Our churches were involved in the crib, which I'll explain a little bit more about in a minute. And the Parks and Gardens were really, really keen to make sure that it reduced the crime in the area, and they no longer had to react always to cleaning graffiti and fixing up things that were vandalised. And the police were similar. So we paid significant respect to that aspect of the project, engaging with that team, building their skills, providing them with all the information they needed to be decision makers as we went through on the design process. There was also surveys and a whole range of other engagement activities that occurred, but the working party was the pivotal point. And we took a slow, quick approach. We were very slow to build and get those right people together and inform them and encourage them and support them. Very slow to do the planning and design phases of the project, but the construction happened very, very quickly. We spent all of the time up front, the pointy end. So people were excited, they were engaged, they were very appreciative of their involvement, and they were collaborative. They were empowered to have their say, drive their agendas, and they felt safe and trusted. The challenge. Now, there's always a challenge in every project, as we've heard pretty similarly to all of the other presentations today. This is the crib. So the crib was developed by the combined churches and installed about 50 years ago and takes pride of place in Memorial Park. It sits empty 50 weeks of the year. 2 weeks of the year, 4 weeks of the year. It has a nativity scene, and it has other religious scenes in it, one at Easter, one at Christmas. So the combined churches got wind that we were going to do the redevelopment at the park, and they made it well known through every possible avenue they could. And so we were bombarded, save the crib, save the crib. So the initial working party collectively worked through the design process and engagement. So they were invited, the churches were invited onto the working party. We needed to make sure we had all the stakeholders there and everyone had equal airplay with their important aspects of the park. So after a whole heap of information, consultation, discussion, negotiation, all of those things, the crib was delicately relocated to an even more central location facing out at the roundabout, and I'll show you some scenes of that in a moment. Now, aesthetically, it wasn't really the look I'd hoped for. In fact, I'd hoped the crib was going to disappear in some 21st century solution. We didn't necessarily want the scenes to disappear, but we hoped that a new solution would be gained, but that was not to be the case. So the crib was here to stay, and this was democracy at work. So yes, we talked a bit about lighting. We installed a whole range of different lighting, and I haven't got any photos of this park at night, but honestly, it looks better at night than it does at day. It is just a centrepiece for the town. So this is basically facing out to the town, as you can see, the crib pride of place. But it absolutely looks fantastic. All of the trees have been pruned back. There's been some removed, which of course is always going to be controversial. A whole heap of new street furniture. There was actually never any seats. There was one little bench seat pretty much in the park. So there's all of the takeaway food places and restaurants and thing are opposite. There's nowhere to actually go and sit and eat. So we've installed lighting, we've installed new street furniture, there's a whole heap of bike parking out to the front, we've got even recycle bins and all new bins, selective tree removal and the pruning, and there's a whole heap new plantings to go in as well. We've put all new footpaths and the accessibility. Over here we can see at the bottom, before you could walk across from the other side of the street, but the only thing you could do was go up the stairs. You could not go around either side of the park. So the accessibility has just been improved no end. The toilet block's been upgraded. We've expanded the monument area, so that area now is probably 10 times larger than what it was previously, and it still all fits in, and it does certainly create a really strong sense of remembrance and that historical value. The stone wall, this has all been done to align with the rest of the township, and it was the old vertical pine before that was just as ugly as you can imagine. And the Aboriginal art displays, which I've got some photos of a bit further on, and that was just, such a critical point in the whole project, and interpretive signage. Just some of the things that are still to come. These seating's all been put, there's 3 sort of pillars of It's sort of benched into and it benched the park up a bit, but it's got these natural seating points now too. And where's Pink here? That's going to be a very reflective and inspirational story of war to peace. Now, those words have come straight from the artist. It's going to have some sort of casting or some sort of sculpture of war through to peace. And he's explained it to me and described it. Can't wait to see it. It'll also have wording and be interpreted, so that's going to be brilliant. From this project, Vic Track got involved, and there's an underpass just up to the south here. That's all going to be upgraded as well, because it's been always seen as somewhere that, the perception that it's not safe. So there's going to be murals and that go through there. So it's been an unintended consequence and something that we're really proud of. Vic Track have come to the party on that. But up to the east and the south will also be a shared space, so that the park, which is central to the town development, is going to now start sprawling out. And then the broader town centre redevelopment will take place incrementally over the next probably 5 to 10 years. So there's a whole heap of things that are now going to stem from this project that we're really proud of. So how can the park be best summed up? I guess it's what people are saying now after the fact. It's been redeveloped. It's not been officially launched. That will happen shortly, but it is definitely open for the community to enjoy. Our parks team, well, they just said they can't believe the positive comments and feedback they're getting. They're saying it's more open and inviting, and it's completed to a really high standard. They feel the lighting has significantly improved the impact on safety of the park, and there is no graffiti. So they're not getting any of the call-outs. They're not required to do any of that reactionary work now. I believe it's a really great outcome. The artist, well, he describes it as he was the hands and the eyes of the Kuno, and he gave his spirit freely. He said the different ways people are using the park and taking photographs makes him feel proud. I feel it's celebratory and it brings people together. The RSL, well, it was evident on the 25th of April at Anzac, the 100-year Anzac Day, that morning. We had thousands of people there, and usually they'll go to the service, it lasts 5 or 10 minutes, and they go up to the RSL. People stayed there for hours. They sat around, they took photographs. That's just never happened before. It just was not a place that you would do that. So they just are overwhelmed with the outcome that they just were not expecting. The business group, well, they just the same. People are coming up to them saying how amazing it looks and how proud they feel. The police, Memorial Watch, they don't even know it exists anymore. They just drive by. They don't have to stop and look anymore. They can see it as they go past. It's just a highly visual space and visible space that does not require or has not got any hidden nooks and crannies anymore. And finally, in the words of the Kuno, this has come straight from them. It was a real partnership and consultation. It made us proud of the recognition of local Aboriginal community. We're impressed, and this builds pride. Bridging understanding of war and the respect between two cultures now and during war, when we all fought together as one. It was a better time then, and it's a better time now. It's a sacred place for people to view it and respect it. Acknowledging and sharing history and culture, it's unity. Just flick through a couple of the other, before finishing up, just a couple of the other. So this is all the accessible work that's been done. What I was talking about with the Kuno. So this is the artwork that's been done. It's a local gentleman here on the front. It's got a whole heap of reeds, and there's another one that's got the blue wren, which is their totem, and that's freestanding, and you sort of walk through it to the toilet block with this on. At night, this has got all lights behind it, so soft, beautiful lighting that just makes it stand out, and it really, truly is incredible. The large, area for gatherings that just wasn't there before. This is the wording. So age shall not weary them, nor the something condemn is on the other side. And as I said before, the sculpture will go on the other area. The wayfinding and some information, some interpretation will go on the bottom of those for the park. That's just not installed yet. So in finishing, I just want to quote David Enwich. We talked a little bit about placemaking before. I truly believe that community development and infrastructure do go hand in hand, and infrastructure alone will not create the change we want to see. But David says when something is used for the purpose other than its original intention, this is success. So the other day, I only live about 400 metres from this park, mind you. So when I noticed 3 young children using the park as their own personal stage, you can see them up the end here, dancing on the benches, it confirmed to me the extent of the project's outcomes and successes. People were bursting with pride and even dancing in the park. The grant was about crime prevention, but Drouin has got so much more. Thanks, DOJ.